What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jontai, and today we have the founder of Carrie Emer Speaking and Coaching, Miss Carrie Emer. Now, Miss Emer is a confidence and mindset coach with over 2 decades of experience. She's dedicated to helping women entrepreneurs and innovators master the mental health game. She's also the author of an empowerment series entitled The Change, and she's here today to help us shift the rooms on what she means business. So, ladies, grab those cups and those notepads, and let's get down to it. The Meanness Now session. Welcome, Miss Emer.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. You ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
Perfect. So let's start back at the beginning of your journey. What was life like for you before you ever attached language to the idea of the warrior mindset? And when did that confidence first become something you realized you had to actively build, not just naturally your own?
So, before becoming a coach, I grew up as an athlete and then served time in the US Army. And that's definitely where my confidence and the warrior mindset came from. Learning that confidence isn't something that we're just born with, that it's something that we have to build over time. And also going through the situations at West Point and in the military where I was no longer the big fish in the little pond, I was now the little fish in the big pond, and having to rebuild what confidence meant to me. It wasn't something that just came naturally anymore. I took a step back and actually had to analyze what I was doing and see what was going to take me to the next level. Being able to do things through practice and realizing that's where you gain your confidence from, not from the day-to-day things that we're doing. A lot of people wait until they feel confident to be able to go do anything, but confidence is actually built through a day-by-day process that we all do.
And again, thank you so much for your service. And I can't imagine being in the military and the things that you went through while being in the military, let alone some of the experiences and pressures you've experienced as an entrepreneur. What did these environments teach you about decision making and that helps you shape how you move now as a business leader?
These environments have taught me a lot about decision making. One thing that I would love to share with other entrepreneurs is that indecision is actually a decision. So we need to be able to go out there and make a decision. We may not have 100% of the information, but make a decision based on the best information that you have. When I was in Iraq, I didn't always have all of the information. What was going to happen? Of course, we never know what the enemy is going to do, but you have to take the information that you have and go out and implement that. A lot of us, again, sit back and we're so hesitant to do things or we're looking to be perfect. I think perfectionism, especially as women, holds so many of us back. And we say, I'll get my website up when it's perfect. I'll reach out to people once I have the perfect email. And all of those things hold us back in business. If we can go out there and do the best that we have with the information that we have, even when it's imperfect, put that website up when it's imperfect. That's okay. Start that book, write that book and publish it when it's imperfect. That's okay. If we can get over our perfectionistic selves and start implementing, that's where business starts. We have to start doing things before we can get the ball rolling. So I would say decisiveness is a number one thing. And number two would be your emotional regulation. So many of us get in that fight or flight with business, with being a mom, with being an entrepreneur, and we forget that we have control over our emotions. We are in control if we can take a step back, take a breath, and reset. We can be in control of our environment instead of letting our environment control us. And those things as entrepreneurs are going to make a huge difference to be able to continue to run your business and not get burnt out by your business.
A lot of people don't realize that an indecision is a decision. And we could talk about how many different times people have given up on themselves before even giving themselves that chance to step out and start a business. You literally talk yourself out of it. I can't do this. I need somebody to be my friend. I need somebody to support me before I step out there. And I'm telling you, you don't have to be perfect. I'm a person that thought I would never be on a camera talking to people because I had a fear of public speaking. However, that belief in myself and wanting to overcome my fears is how I started my podcast and how I was able to reach out to so many people. So you have to make those tough decisions. And sometimes it's getting out of your own way in certain cases because that's what I had to do. So let's talk about mental health. At what point did you recognize that the same mental discipline that was used in elite athletics and military service could translate into entrepreneurship and leadership in the civilian world?
So it took me a little while to see the path from being in the military to becoming an entrepreneur, but seeing so many people that were struggling, and I call it even hiding behind a mask, especially after COVID, and not wanting to put themselves out there, not wanting to even have a conversation anymore, not wanting to say, hey, this is who I am, and I want to be big, I want to be bold, I want to show the world what I was put here for. None of us were put here to live small, to hide behind a mask, to be told by someone else what we're supposed to be doing. So I think COVID was a big change for me. Seeing all these people 3 years after, or now 5 years after, still wearing masks, and whether it's the physical mask or an emotional mask that they're hiding behind, and afraid to step out there and be that person that says, hey, look at me. I know you just mentioned being afraid to be on camera. And so many of us have the fear of whatever it is. We think everybody's watching us, but then, as all of us as entrepreneurs can say, I wish more people were watching me, because once I started putting my information out there, now I'm like, man, where are all those people that I thought were out there with all their eyes on me? And that's not the case. That's part of sports where you think, "Oh, everybody's watching me," and they're not. That's part of being in the military. All eyes are never on you, and even if they are, be proud of that. We want people to be watching us. We wanna be the model that people see so that then they can say, "Yes, I wanna be like that person." Put yourself out there. And so to me, the step was going from COVID and realizing that I had leadership skills. I had mindset that I had built while I was at West Point, while I was in the military, playing Division 1 sports, and that I could translate that to be able to help women come out of this shell that we live in and this box that society wants us to put in and say, hey, this is me. I was put here for a reason. Look at me, and I'm proud of this. And I want to be the one of the people, obviously, I'm not going to be the only person, to help women be able to do that. And it starts with our young girls, and it's for men as well. But I know we're talking mostly to women entrepreneurs right now, and it's being okay with who you know that you are. Don't let society push you back. Don't get in that box and be afraid to break out of it. It's okay to be big. It's okay to be bold and be you. Be the person that you want to be, because we are all put here for something, and go out there and show people who that person is and why we were put here. I see so many people afraid, and especially women afraid, and they're in a man's world, and people tell them, oh, you can't have that job. Oh, you shouldn't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Be okay with it and step forward and say, I can do this. I can take on that role. I can take on that job. I can start my own business, whatever it is, and know in your mind that you are going to be a success. To me, the mental part of it is as big as the actual doing it. Being confident in your mind that you can be that person that's actually sometimes hiding inside.
And you hit on several aspects just then when you become an entrepreneur. You have to do that internal work. You have to shift that mindset. You have to start believing in self because I'm telling you, I was afraid of public speaking, and I literally thought I was gonna get on the camera and everybody in the comments was gonna call me crazy and look at me weird and things like that, but you have to get out of your own way because everybody has a light, and you should not wanna hold that light in just by abiding by systems that don't make you happy because I'm telling you, everybody has a purpose. You just have to be willing to take that risk on yourself. And you also mentioned my next topic, which is switching from a founder to a leader. Let's get some advice for you. What's the biggest identity shift women underestimate when they step into building a business that requires leadership, not just passion?
I think as women, one of our struggles, and I would say for me, even as a mom, this is a struggle, is releasing control. So we can't be in control of everything as much as we want to be, even in our business. We need to go from being the doer to being the planner, the overseer of your whole world that you're creating. We can't be doing every task or we can't ever grow. And I think for a lot of us, that is a challenge to be able to release that control to someone else and realize that we can still succeed and that your vision, your passion can succeed with the help of other people, can succeed even more with the help of other people because you personally can't do everything. And then I would also say that it is doing the real work. So many of us as entrepreneurs get into our day and we're putting out fires. We're creating our website. We're making all these things that are beautiful, but we're not actually reaching out to anyone. We're not doing the things that make money for us. So we feel very busy. We feel very overwhelmed, even, but we're not actually doing the real work that is going to get you customers. Talking to people face to face, reaching out to people, getting your business cards out there, sending emails, creating websites and all of those things are fabulous. And yes, it is a piece of your business, but we can't spend all of our time doing that. It's actually a form of procrastination. So if we can get into doing the real work and then accepting the outcomes, nothing is going to be perfect in business, in life, in everything that we do. As much as we, again, want it to be perfect, if we get to an outcome and it's not what we wanted, then as the leader of the business, we step back, analyze, and reset. Being willing to put yourself out there, though, whether it's good or bad, is a huge step. And then accepting the outcomes. You, as the leader, are the one that takes on those outcomes and says, yes, this was great. No, this wasn't. Now we're going to go a different direction. So, those would be the three things as an entrepreneur when you're shifting gears.
And I just want to highlight the first one, which is delegate. A lot of women, I'm a woman that did it myself, like to be in control. I do it myself before I let somebody else do it type of people. And it's just the way women are. And I'm telling you, I've been in that situation myself to where I thought I can do it all. You're gonna literally burn yourself out and you're gonna probably give up on your business. However, if you learn to trust people, even if it's just family or your closest friend, give those simple tasks that you know that they can do to them so you can take a little bit of pressure off yourself so you're able to go out and do interviews for the business or go out and market the business in different areas. You got to learn how to trust people in order to grow as a business because you're not going to be able to do it all. So let's talk about you working with entrepreneurs. When you work with entrepreneurs on confidence, what's the most common internal pattern that quietly holds them back from scaling even when their strategy is solid?
I would go back to one of the things that I've said in a few previous comments. Perfectionism is definitely one, and hesitation. I would, those two things hold you back trying to be an entrepreneur more than anything. And the perfectionism leads us to things like over researching, spending all our time on tasks that are not making us money. Perfectionism also leads us to the comparison trap. So many of us look at someone else's step 20 and we're only on step one. We think that the overnight successes actually happened overnight, but we don't look at the 20 years that went into planning it before that overnight success happened. That's not something that people tell us on YouTube and everywhere else. They don't say, yes, I've been planning this and going through 100 different steps prior to the day that I got picked up and started making money. So we compare ourselves to people that are in a very different phase of their business. And lastly, I would say as women, we fear outgrowing our business. So that may be something as a parent, as a mom, as just as an entrepreneur, but we have the fear of getting too big. So instead of having that fear, If you have the vision of where you want to go and you can see it before you do it. So it's a dream before the reality of where you want to go and being okay with that in your heart, that it's not, I'm going to be leaving my kids behind. I'm going to be spending too much time on my business, but knowing what your vision is so that then you can get there instead of each day thinking, wow, where am I going? What do I want to do? What am I spending my time on? If you have that big vision and you've accepted it as what you want to do, then you can continue to grow towards that instead of fearing it.
She dropping gems because I did both of them. I thought I had to be perfect. I was looking at everybody else's and I was like, I can't do that. And so I'm telling y'all, thinking you have to be perfect, thinking you have to be the best public speaker, because that's another thing about me. I stutter sometimes. I mess up. I don't necessarily pronounce all the words in the dictionary correctly. And I thought I had to know every word in the dictionary before I started a podcast. But you don't. You just have to believe and be willing to take a chance on yourself. So let's move over to a conversation that I talk about often because I've experienced this myself, and that's burnout. What are some of the early warning signs you've learned to recognize that most people ignore until they're already depleted?
Burnout is definitely a great question, and a lot of entrepreneurs go through that. My first thing I would say is if you look at your vehicle and if the warning light comes on, we're not going to just keep pushing that vehicle. If the gas light comes on, we actually go fill it up with gas. Those are the same things that we need to do as an entrepreneur. It's not a badge of honor to say, oh, I'm burned out because I'm an entrepreneur. But many of us feel that way because you're like, I should be burned out. I'm an entrepreneur. You don't have to be. And some of the early signs that you're getting burnt out are when you start to lose your creativity. So most of us come into being an entrepreneur with these huge ideas and everything that we want to do and more things than we could ever accomplish. And when you start to lose that creativity, that's a sign that you're starting to move down that road of burnout. The second thing I would say is irritability with the small stuff. So when an email comes in from an upset customer and you blow your top, if your kids do something, hold you up for 5 minutes and you get upset, things that wouldn't normally bother you that you are now becoming very irritated about, that's a sign that we're moving towards burnout as well. And then lastly, and unfortunately, this is the saddest one, I think, as an entrepreneur, is resenting your passion. So you started this business because you have a passion. You started it with a reason, your why. Why are you doing this? And when you start to move away from that and that why no longer seems important, that's when you know burnout is coming. If you can't sit down with yourself and say, my why of doing this business, that's what's supposed to keep us going every day, not supposed to be something that we start to hate and say, oh, I can't do this. This is too much. It's overwhelming. We're supposed to love this. It's actually supposed to be fun. It's like sports. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a job. And if you feel that way, then the resentment of your passion is going to lead to the end of your business.
I like to call it the overachievers. They run and they run and they consistently run. And if you think about it, a lot of them do have really bad attitudes, and that's why, because they literally are running on fumes, y'all, and it's not because they're bad people. It's just they're running on those fumes of trying to keep the business sustained and running, and they just have that moment where they explode. And give them grace, just like we would if we were their children, give them grace in them in those moments. But those ones that she just named are not commonly talked about. So thank you again, Carrie, for bringing those up because a lot of people would not think that those were examples of burnout. Now, let's bring back up this warrior mindset again. What does that look like on an average morning when everything is going wrong and clients can be demanding attention and say your energy is low? What does that look like for you?
Energy low, that never happens. And a bad morning, I can't imagine. So, all of us have the Mondays, the Tuesdays, the Wednesdays as entrepreneurs that are days where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can even do this anymore. Instead of trying to keep pushing through it, where then we lead into the burnout that we were just talking about. A few things that we can do to help us. The first thing that I teach people is a reset routine. So that is to stop what you're doing, acknowledge it. That can be pressing your hands together. For a lot of us as women, we'll touch our hair, something that acknowledges, I'm getting to a point that I don't want to be at. Then take a breath. The best way that I found to do it and through research is taking that deep breath in and letting it all out and having your exhale be longer than your inhale. That gives you the chance to reset your nervous system. And then saying to yourself, what is one thing that I can control right now? That simple question takes you from helplessness that you're starting to feel to it actually changes your brain from feeling helpless to problem solving by saying, what is one thing that I can control right now? Super simple question, but being able to think of that in the moment when we're starting to get worked up, when we are losing control, when it's the day that it feels like everything is going wrong. So, stopping, taking that breath, and asking the question, completely changing our mind back into problem solving instead of staying in that helpless feeling. And then, lastly, treating your energy as something that you're in control of. We control inside of ourselves the energy that we have. I like to think of it as two different circles. So the noise is what's on the outside. That's moving around. That could be the traffic. It's what other people say to you. It's the email that comes in from a mad customer, from your boss or whoever. All the noise that we hear in our head. That is where our brain typically lives, is listening to the noise. If we instead can bring our energy into our power, which is right in our heart. So if you think of it as reaching your arms out, this is the noise, and bringing it in close. This is your power right here. The things that we can actually control. The things that we control are our breathing, our effort, our preparation, and our reaction. So if you can bring whatever it is that's happening to you that's getting this reaction, that's the bad morning, bad afternoon, bad evening, it could be anytime, and bring it back into your power zone instead of leaking your energy out to things that we can never get it back from. When you get upset in a traffic jam, you can't take that energy back. We're simply leaking energy out and never gaining it back. So being in control of our energy inside of us and realizing that is where our powerhouse is and not listening to the noise.
And I love how you started that off with what's a bad morning. You literally control how your energy is given. So if you want to be a person that feeds into straight negative energy, you're going to probably have a bad day. I can use myself as an example. Me having so much passion for the mental health community and wanting to help people and seeing how the system is set up, it literally made me so angry. I literally started reacting to everything because I just hated the system. I hated seeing people that was in the mental health community not get services and people act like they didn't care about the services. And sometimes you just can't control that, y'all. You can only control what you do and how you show up and how you can help people. So that was definitely a great highlight. Now, you've experienced high performance environments where failure has real consequences. How do you help entrepreneurs reframe failure so it doesn't derail their confidence, but strengthens it?
So failure is something that I've dealt with a lot, playing sports, being in the military, and especially when I was in Iraq, where your life is actually on the line, not only mine, but everybody that I was working with. Every day, your life is on the line. So coming back to the States and being an entrepreneur and realizing even when there's a fire, it's never going to be as bad as it was while I was at war. So being able to reframe that as this is not my life on the line. It may be money, it might be other things that are on the line. But if you're not failing as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, you're not growing. So most of us look at failure and think, oh, this is a setback. This is the end of what I can do. I made a mistake. I look bad. If you can flip the script on that and realize that failure is the tuition that you pay for future success. So all of us want that future success. And We have to pay into that. So if we can change failure into a stepping stone, failure into a good thing, there's no athletes out there that are at the highest level that got there without failure. They have had to go through multiple failures. But what we learn to do is to go back to what we called in the military our standard operating procedures. So if you have procedures in place, then when things start to go wrong, you go back to the practice that you've done. If in sports things start to go wrong in a game, you go back to what you've practiced. So it's the same thing in business. When things start to go wrong, we go back to the procedures that we've put in place, the habits that we've created for ourselves. So failure is not out there to deter us and to knock us down. It's going to knock us down, but we're going to get back up. So the difference in the people that succeed is one, they can look at failure as a stepping stone. Two, they can use failure as a filter. They use it as something to learn from. So we take any failure that we have and find the good points in it, find the lesson in it, and use that to grow going forward. Hopefully, we don't continue to make the same mistakes, but even if you do, take a second, look at it, and why is this same step happening again? So use it as a filter, not as something to set you back in your business. And then being able to bounce back, being able to say, hey, I made a mistake. You mentioned when we speak, we all make mistakes when we're speaking. We stutter, we say things, we say words that we would rather not be saying. We pause, we do things. None of us are going to be perfect. So being able to bounce back and say, there was something good that came out of this, even if there was parts that I didn't like, but focusing our mind on the positives, even taking the time at the end of each day or the beginning of each day to write one positive thing that you did to keep your mind in that positive, because our mind wants to go to the negative and it's going to replay the videos in our head of the negative. If you can take the time and start training your brain to focus on the positive, then you start growing towards that vision that you have without taking the time to do it. We all train our bodies, maybe not all of us. Most of us want to train our bodies on a daily basis. And it's the same thing with our mind. We want to train our mind on a daily basis so that it can grow. It's like a muscle, the same as building your muscles to be out on the beach. You want to build your mental muscles to do the things and to see the parts of your business, the parts of your life that are positive, not let it slip back into the negative.
And I just love talking about failure because that is one of the biggest things that hold a lot of people back, fear of failing. You highlighted that a lot of your athletes and even your favorite celebrity or artists out there, they didn't get to where they were off of trying one time. They consistently had to learn lessons, and it builds character. And if you're willing to learn those lessons from those mistakes of the past, it's really not failure unless you give up. I'm just gonna say that. And a lot of people also think which is taking us when it comes to public speaking, you got to walk in the room with the biggest confidence. There, it literally has become a personality trait for some people. How do you break that myth down for your clients so they start treating confidence like a skill instead of a mindset?
Similar to what I was just talking about with confidence being a muscle. So many people think of confidence as a trait. You're either born with it or you're not, which is not the case. We are not born with innate confidence. We have to build it over time. It's something that we build day in and day out. And basically, what confidence is being aware of the things that we're doing and able to do them without thinking. So it's not confidence isn't the being able to walk down the red carpet with your chest puffed out, but it's that internal, oh, I already know how to do this because I've done it 100 times. And how do we get there? Because we practice. That's in public speaking, in school, in sports, in anything that you want to do in life. So being an entrepreneur, it's practicing as well. We have to practice having the sales conversations. We have to practice making the cold calls. These things don't just magically happen for us. And confidence comes because we're practicing the right skills. And some of the right skills are our inner voice that we have. So we have two voices in our head, our inner critic and our inner coach. We need to train to listen to that inner coach who tells us, get back up, you can do this again. Being able to look at failure as a stepping stone instead of as a setback. Being able to have that reset routine that changes where we're at from the panic to the power. Those are the small things, and those don't just come naturally. Nobody that has those skills got them naturally. They got them because they practice them. An athlete gets confidence because they practice a skill day in and day out. So when it comes to the final shot of the game, they've done it a million times, 1,000 times, 100 times. When you're making that sales call and the difficult questions come in, you've already practiced all of those. You already know what to say in the situation. Being in a networking event and knowing how you want to present yourself, you've practiced it, whether that's with a friend, with at other networking events. None of those are things to fear. They're all things that we just need to practice so that then when the next time comes, we can say, I've done this before. And our confidence grows every time that we do that. So I guess I would say there's so many things in our mindset that help us to grow confidence, but it's definitely not something we're born with. It's something that we build over time.
I just love how she explained that because that is literally how you become confident. You have to keep going. You have to learn. Once again, going back to failure, you have to learn from those mistakes. And a lot of times you're sitting on skills that you're afraid to use because you think that they're small skills, like you're able to write. You might be a former assistant or receptionist and you used to take minutes. A lot of people think that knowing how to organize a calendar is not important in entrepreneurship. I'm here to tell you that's very important if you're an entrepreneur. Some people look at being able to create content as less than when in reality there's still a key and a talent to creating that, especially content creators. And once again, your celebrities, how they got there is they literally kept trying over and over again. And that's how they built that confidence. You can name your favorite motivational speaker in your head right now, or even down in the comments, and think about how they got to where they were. They kept trying, they kept revising those scripts, they attended courses, they did whatever it was to build that confidence within self first, but constantly practicing and getting better at it every single day. So those little skills that I just named, especially writing and knowing how to set up a calendar, if you think those are small skills, those are the skills that can help you learn to become confident, and especially with setting meetings and getting out there and interacting with other entrepreneurs, especially with collaboration, because you don't want to schedule a meeting with a CEO and have another meeting with an investor at the same time. So definitely use them skills, y'all. Now, let's talk about you as a speaker and a coach. What is one truth about leadership that you think more women need to hear, even if it's uncomfortable?
First, I love that question because being uncomfortable is what being a leader is. In my opinion, if you're living in your comfort zone as a business owner, you are never going to grow. Comfort and growth cannot be in the same sphere together. That isn't going to happen. So we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, whether that's speaking in front of a camera, whether that's attending networking events where we don't feel comfortable. Any of the skills that we need to have as an entrepreneur, many of them are going to feel uncomfortable. And if you're only doing the ones that feel comfortable because you're good at managing a calendar, because you're good at content creation, because you're good at writing, but you're not doing the networking because that's uncomfortable, you're not doing the speaking on camera because that's uncomfortable, you're missing a huge part of your business. So learning that as a leader, it's okay to be uncomfortable. And that is how we grow as a person. Every time we put ourselves in an uncomfortable conversation, in an uncomfortable situation, we start to grow because our brain has to create new neural pathways when we have that uncomfort. And the more that we can put ourselves in those situations, the more neural pathways that we create, which is amazing that our brain can keep growing every day. And we do that through new situations. Our brain forms a neural pathway. And so if you just keep doing that same thing, our brain is just staying flat. If you give it new things and you start to help it grow, then we create more, we can be more. It's not something that has to be static. And especially as a business owner, that would be my number one thing. We think that safety is where we want to stay as a business owner, and that is completely an illusion. We need to be outside of that box. We need to be doing things that don't feel like that's what we want to be doing for the day. Because when you sit in that comfort zone, that's where our business starts to fail.
You can sit there and manage that calendar all day, but eventually it's gonna start to get empty because you're gonna need to fill it up again. And what you gonna do? You're gonna have to go out and you're gonna have to find some people. And I just use myself as the example. I posted all the pretty pictures, but if I didn't actually reach out, how was I gonna have guests? That's how it starts. And a lot of people think, hey, I don't have a big social media following. Go out in your community. Go out and talk to some of the people that you already know have a business. So figure out a way to grow from that fear. And that's what I did. I said, I'm gonna create a podcast and I'm gonna literally talk to everybody. And here we are. That is literally what she's talking about. You got to take a risk on yourself. Now, let's talk about that me to we transformation that you do. What does that shift look like for a business owner who's used to doing everything alone?
So the me to we is going from me doing everything to we as a team. So that looks like building a community, whether that's your small, it might start as a very small community that you have people helping you. Again, this is letting go of your control that we talked about earlier, but being able to start building people that can help you. Community is also the people that support you. So your clients, your referrals, all of those people. If we don't ask people to be part of our business, to buy something, to be on our podcast, to give us a referral, they're not magically going to happen. So we have to be able to build that community, and that comes in so many different aspects. But going from me to we is me sitting in my home office to we being out networking, doing the things that I need to do as an entrepreneur, and then trading my success to our impact. So, as an entrepreneur, we often think this business is all about me. This is my face. This is who I am. But the reason that you're running the business is to make an impact. Every business that I know of, the goal is to impact somebody in some way. That's why we have a business. So if you can think about your business as our impact, how many women can I impact? How many women can I help? For me, if it's one person that I make a difference in their life, that makes it worth it. That makes it go from me to our. And it's realizing that things don't have to be huge for you to get started either. A lot of people won't run a webinar because they think only 2 or 3 people are going to show up. Who cares? You don't need 12,000 people on your webinar to be able to run it. You can record it, you can put it online, but going from that me to our impact and realizing the reason you're here is to impact other people. And then building the culture of resilience. So making your whole brand around making things better and not just that individual. Most of us aren't in business to make ourselves better. We are going to get better because of the business, but we want to make our culture, all of the people that are included in our business and the clients that we have, teach them that resilience, that bouncing back, that giving back and doing better. That's what we're here for. It's not that individual versus everybody else. The more of an impact that we can make and realize that it's for all of us, and that's what our business is here for, that's how we start to go from the me to we.
Absolutely. We start businesses to make an impact, to be of service to others, whether that's from your own personal lived experience or just seeing how your community does not have that resource and you want to bring it to your community. That's literally why we all go into entrepreneurship. I've taken a couple of business courses and they always say, think about we as a community, and that'll help you sell because you have to think about the community that you're trying to appeal to and what they want, not necessarily always what you prefer. So that was a great highlight of how you can shift from me to we. And if you're taking any business classes out there, they're going to start teaching you stuff like that. So let's talk about something that's also commonly talked about right now, and that's survival mode. How do you help entrepreneurs build systems or habits that protect their energy so they can grow sustainably without operating always in survival mode?
So to get out of survival mode, we have to go back into the realizing that we run this as a kingdom instead of us building from the bottom up. We're looking at it top down. We want to have the people that can help us. And one of the big things as a CEO, as the founder, the owner, all of the things that we call ourselves that start the business is to make time for what a lot of people call the CEO hour. So you take 1 hour out of your day. It's often most beneficial in the beginning of the day. And you start your day with the tasks that are not putting out fires. They're not responding to emails. It's either doing outreach to new customers and you set aside a full hour to do that. Or it's taking the time to analyze something that went wrong or a new vision that you have. But setting aside that time, that's non-negotiable. You're not going to be putting fires out. You're not going to be answering emails. You're not going to be answering the phone. You're solely taking time to build the business and really making sure that 1 hour is set aside on your calendar. The next thing would be the delegation, like we've been talking about throughout the podcast, making sure that you're building your team. You're not trying to do all of this on your own because that's where our burnout starts to come from. Automate systems as much as you can. Right now, if you're answering the same question 5 times a day, then let's automate that into someone else that can be answering it or a system that can be answering it instead of you spending that time. It might seem it's only 20 seconds to answer a text or to answer an email, but that adds up when multiple 20 seconds come together and then we feel like we're just scrambling and we're never getting anything accomplished. And lastly, I would say is the scheduled maintenance. So we talked about that a little bit before, but taking the time for yourself to rest. Just like we said earlier with your vehicle, when the gas is low, we can't keep driving. When the gas is low in our own body, we can't keep working. You have to take the time to rest, recover, and give yourself those breaks. And that doesn't mean stepping away from the business. It could just be the resetting with that breath and asking the question, what is one thing that I can control right now? Or what is the next step? But making sure that you are taking time for self maintenance and we're not letting the business run us. We are actually running the business.
And I'm sitting here with my arms folded because I hope y'all taking notes because that right there, you got to build systems. That's how you don't get reach burnout. That's how you build sustainability long term. You got to have systems and you got to practice those habits. And if you're not giving yourself a day off, I'm here to tell you, you're going to eventually give yourself a day off. Now, we've been talking about community for the entire episode today. What role has community played in your evolution as a leader, and how do you intentionally build that into the people that you currently mentor?
Community has played a huge role in everything that I do, from business to life to raising kids. And it's so important to have that community around you for so many reasons. As women, it's very easy for us to pull ourselves away from everything, especially our community. And as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, we need that community. We just talked about it a little bit in the last question that we did, that we are here to make an impact. So without a community, whether that's other women, other moms, the clients that we actually have, we have to take the time to build that community. That is what is going to make us feel safe. So within our community, that's where we have the safety to fail, to make that first failure. So maybe it was a small community where we first did our first podcast or our first speaking, and you go, oh, yeah, these are my people because they're supporting me even when I didn't feel good about it. So it's that safety net that we get when we have a community, and building that is going to lead us to the next steps. And then someone that's holding you accountable. Once we have clients, once we have people in our community, we have somebody that holds us accountable. And our community, when we have a business team, there's somebody every day saying, okay, what's the next step? We can't just decide to sit back today and do nothing. You have people that are counting on you. And again, your business is here to make an impact. So those people that need you, that's your community that's counting on you to be out there, to give them the information, to continue to support them. Even when we don't feel like that community is huge, that's okay. Continue to get your message out there. Continue to be the person that you are, because it's all coming. We've talked about it since the beginning of this. It takes practice, it takes time. None of this happens overnight. There is no such thing as the overnight success. Okay, so building that community, and it also gives you a place where you can be transparent. As we know in business today, there is no time to keep things hidden, to do things that are shady or behind the scenes. People can see everything. So community is where you have that transparency. And a lot of us, especially that are afraid to be on a camera, it's because my hair's not done right, my makeup's not done right. So we hold ourselves back because we're so worried about something small like that. Be transparent with your community. They want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see what your business takes to run it. Nobody's business runs perfectly and flawlessly and without effort. There's days that we're all in our sweats and we're in our slippers, and that's how we hang out for the day because there isn't excuse me. Let me go back on that.
You did.
So there's going to be days where you're in your sweats, you're in your slippers, and that's how we spend the day. And you can show people that it's okay to answer the door. It's okay to make a video that you got clothes on that maybe aren't what you wanted everybody to see, but that's you. Be who you are and be okay with that. They want to see the real you, not just the made up you. And I only say this from experience because I fight with that day in and day out. I go walk my dog with a hat on, and there's days that I think I should make a video while I'm out here, but I'm like, oh, but I don't have my makeup on. And I continue to hear from people. We want to see the transparent, we want to see the behind the scenes. And it's okay, again, to not be perfect in everything that we do. And that includes how we show up and letting people in on the back end and the transparent and being transparent about it.
You brought up a great point because last year I started my Mental Health Monday series and I would do walks. And I would have to always think, I gotta put on some lipstick or something in order to do these videos. But sure enough, my first video, I had on no makeup. My whole entire face was sweaty and it got a lot of comments compared to what I actually would had on the lipstick. People want to see that imperfect person because that's what they relate to. Everybody knows nobody's perfect. And I also love that you mentioned there's no such thing as an overnight success. Even the ones that you think are overnight successes, ask them how many times it took them to get that perfect video that went viral, or ask that artist how many songs they wrote prior, or how many times they sung that song in order to get it perfect. It's literally a process. You have to keep going at it. Those are people that literally have been putting in the work for years and years and years and now have become successful. So thank you for putting my audience at ease of thinking that they just literally got to start at the top and just keep going to the moon. I do want to talk about your new empowerment series entitled The Change. Can you talk about that a little bit with our audience and what all it consists of?
So, the Change book series is the fastest growing personal empowerment book, and I will be one of the authors in it. So, I'm actually a co author. There's 20 authors in each book, and each person that's in it will tell their story on personal empowerment and how they are impacting the world. So for me, the reason I chose to be in it is because one, I get to share my story, which is exciting, but that's to me not the best part. The best part is to share this book with 19 other people. And every time the book goes out to their community, my story goes with it. And every time it goes out to my community, their story goes with it. So when you talk about personal empowerment, to me, that's the best of the best. We not only get to share our own stories, but we then are sharing the stories of 19 other people and all things that can help people all put into one book together. And to me, it's just such an exciting way to get a book out there and a great community that I want to be part of.
Oh my God, congratulations, by the way. And do you know when it actually be out for? We can let our audience know.
It should be out the end of this summer.
Awesome, awesome. And you guys, I would be staying in touch with Kira just to make sure that I have that link so you guys can go and get that copy. Now, sadly, we've come to the end of today's episode, and we always leave with a legacy. So, looking ahead, what legacy are you currently building?
The legacy that I want to build is to impact as many women and their families as possible. I want people to know the tagline that I use is be big, be bold, be brave, but most of all, be you. So, in everything that I'm doing, I want people to know that you were put here for a reason. You are put here to be the best person that you can possibly be. So don't let anyone else hold you back. Don't let somebody tell you that you can't. There are so many of us out there that are living behind those masks and still stepping back from the person that we know we want to be. And I want to see, even if it's one woman that I impact, one family that I impact, be who you were put here to be. Right? We all have it inside of us, but so many of us are scared to be that person and that people are going to comment and say, you can't do this, or we are comparing ourselves. But again, I want people to be big, be bold, be brave, but most of all, be you. And I'll leave you with that.
Now, before we go, I want to make sure that we get all of your information. Let us know how we can sign up for your mentorship. Let us know again where we can find the book. Let us know your socials. Let us know all the details.
So you can find me on my website, which is Carrie Emer, KARIEHMER.com. My social handles are all at Carrie Emer. So just KARIEHMER. Feel free to reach out to me by email. You can email info@carrieemer.com. I would be happy to connect with any of you guys. The change book isn't out yet, so I'll have to share the link, but it'll be on my website when it comes out. And I'm excited to share that with everybody. But please feel free to reach out to me directly when you go on my website. It has my phone number, my direct email, anything that you need. And even if it's just to ask a question, and it doesn't have to be a full on session, I am happy to help people because I feel like that's what I was put here to do.
And I will be leaving all that information down in the description box below. Any last words before we adjourn today's meeting?
I just want to say thank you so much. This was really a great conversation, and I appreciate all of your input and add ons to everything I had to say. Such thoughtful questions, and I look forward to growing this community with you and supporting you in any way I can.
So y'all heard that this is not the last time that you've seen of me and Miss Carrie. And with that, ladies, today's meeting is now adjourned. Thanks again to the founder of Carrie Emer, speaking and coaching, Miss Carrie Emer herself, coming on and sharing her insights. And you be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive your podcast so you never miss whenever we upload. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep those goals tight, that circle tighter, and that bank account growing.